Hey everyone, I'm doing my John Maxwell, and this is a workbook that I work through. It's developing the leader within you. And so when I bought my things, I bought them with the intention of starting my own business. And I made cold calls, I contacted the library, I contacted Ryerson, I contacted U of T, HRPA. Nobody came back to me. So obviously no one's interested in John Maxwell in Toronto. But I'm using it for my own personal growth, and that's the way it should be. It wasn't a waste of money, and it wasn't a waste of time. Before I lost my condo at Rosewell Gardens, the family and my neighbors who live there, they were saying, oh, why don't you become a nun? If you took a course in theology, or you did your master's in theology. And I was trying to explain to people that the purpose of that master's degree is not to become a nun. And I never intended to become a nun or to become a sister. It's to help you to take those values, gospel values, and use them in ministry, or use them in an administrative position in the church, or use them in business, which is exactly what I am doing. I would have liked to have gotten a secretarial position in the church, or I would have liked to have gotten something where I was working with a non-profit, but it didn't work out that way for me. So I'm fortunate. I've got a job. I'm working in an IT company, and I employ my skills every day. It takes a lot of self-control when you're dealing with people who are upset and frustrated, and that's your job the whole day. You're not doing anything else. You're not doing anything creative. You're not using your creative skills, your creative thinking. Your whole day is dealing with people who are complaining and disgruntled and frustrated. So it takes a lot of using self-control, using your gifts, your talents, and I use that in my daily work. And I have no intention of becoming a nun. That's not my goal. So if I get the business going, that would be good for me, because ultimately I do want to be self-sufficient. I don't want to work for somebody for the rest of my life. But if not, whatever God's plan is, that's what's going to happen. So I finished this chapter on John Maxwell's setting priorities and creating positive change. So when we create positive change, we always have to expect pushback. For example, in my company, when I used to tell people that we have limitations, I have limitations, people used to say, no, but this is the way you have to do it. And now things have changed. So we've had a shift. Even with COVID, people before could not work at home, but now many of us are working at home. And for people like me who have health problems, who get sick in the wintertime easily, it's worked out to our benefit, because we don't have to commute, we don't have to be on the subway, we don't have to deal with slow trains or with breakdowns. So in that way it benefits us, and it benefits our company, because they don't have to pay for rent, they don't have to pay for the electricity. We can use our own facilities at home, our bathrooms, our toilets. We can cook our own food at lunchtime. So it works out to be a win-win for everybody. And John Maxwell takes you through key points to success. So you have to expect problems. You have to expect that there's going to be a cost to it. So for us who work at home, we're using our own electricity. We're using our own phones. That's a cost to us, not to the company. And when it's done, when everything's said and done, then we can look back and we can see what we've accomplished. But while we're going through it, it's always very painful. It's always very difficult. And Rick Warren says that the greatest enemy of tomorrow's success is today's success. So if you look at that teaching, if we say, oh, well, yesterday I did it perfect, so today I don't have to, then we lose our momentum, we lose our motivation. We always have to be improving, we always have to change, we always have to adapt, and we always have to give our best. And Winston Churchill says to improve is to change, so to be perfect is to have changed often. So that's what I try to do. I try to change, I try to improve, I try to do things differently. And when I hear things on the call that are upsetting me or that are frustrating me, I just take a deep breath and I keep quiet. And I try to get help from my team on the bridge, or I try to look at what the policies are, and I keep changing. And that's the only way I can do it, because if I don't change, my work is not going to be perfect. One of the things I did today, I sent an email to my MP, to Marco Mendocino, and I sent an email to Robin Martin to tell him I finished paying those COVID repayments. Because it's not just me. A lot of people are sick of the way that the police are treating us, because they're treating us like we're criminals. I had a lien taken out against me, so they were going to basically take me to court and they could have put me in prison. I didn't just have those COVID payments to make, I also had back taxes that I had to pay because they made the mistake. Now I had to pay it. So it was very, very hard for me. And it's very, very, you feel very much like they're treating you like a criminal. You understand that you have an obligation, you have to pay it. But the way that they treat you is like you did something wrong and you're not going to pay it back. And they have no compassion. They have no mercy. I even wrote to the minister to say, I'm in minimum wage, I need extra time, I know I've missed payments, and is there any grace period, or is there any like forgiveness, debt forgiveness? They said no. So, it's very unfair when they tell you, don't worry about it, just take the money and eventually you can pay it back, and then they give you a deadline. It's very, very hard. And especially for somebody like me, I've been humiliated. I've been treated very, very badly in Canada. And especially when you go from working in a big top management job and nobody will employ you and you've done nothing wrong, and people are questioning your judgment, questioning why you can't get work, why you only have contracts. But that's the way things are here. And you're sitting and you're watching everybody else is coming up, everybody else is excelling, everybody else is buying properties, everybody else is traveling. And here you are, you've worked hard, you put in the time, you put in the effort, and you're not getting anything. And not only that, you're being penalized for doing a good job. Because you're so good, they're not promoting you. They're not giving you those opportunities to move up into management or to move into another area. And if you do one thing wrong, you get penalized so heavily that it's like, I can't even describe it to you. So I guess, everybody's experience is different, but this is my experience. And one of the neighbors I had at Rosewell Gardens, she was even telling me the Poor Clares would be good for you. I said to her, I don't want to be in the Poor Clares. I'm not interested in a life of poverty. I am the complete opposite. I told her, I said, when people give me money, I buy jewelry, I buy rings, I buy things that beautify my home. I'm not interested in a life of poverty, so don't tell me to join the Poor Clares. But anyway, we had a laugh about it. And so when you want things to change, you have to talk about what you want to change. You have to be consistent. You have to be clear in what you want, in what your goals are, what you're aspiring to. And when you encounter problems along the way, you have to not give up. And that's easier said than done. It's easier said than done not to give up. Even to graduate, to get your master's, to get your BCom, to finish your studies and to excel, it takes discipline. So you can learn discipline in different ways. You can learn it by having a regular time that you eat, or a regular time that you pray. Or you can say, okay, this time to this time I'm going to dedicate to going through John Maxwell like I do. So sometimes I'm tired after work, I don't do it right away. but I'll wait for a few hours and then I'll sit down and I'll do it. The main thing is not to give up and to be consistent and to keep trying and not to listen to people who tell you it will never work out, you'll never do it, go back to Zimbabwe, there's no future for you in Canada. Because I assure you things are 100 times harder in Zimbabwe than they are here. So that's the chapter I did today. And when people say to me on the phone, oh, you're perfect, I say thank you. Because it takes a lot for me to execute perfectly. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of learning. And conversely, when I hear people who think they know me and they say, oh, that's her, that's Louis' niece, they didn't know what to do, I just ignore it. Because half the time, I don't know who they are, they don't know who I am, so I just ignore it. And we document, we always document. If there's somebody on a call or a chat or an email that thinks they know us, we are required to document, because we don't deal with people that know us. If I get a call or a chat or email from someone that knows me personally, we don't deal with it. We pass it on to the next person so that they can help them, because we are not allowed to do that. The same thing in spiritual direction. We don't take family, because if family have been hurt, have been rejected, have experienced any kind of trauma, and they start talking to us about it, it's not good for us, because then we get traumatized. And it's not our fault, whatever happened to them. It's not like we put them in that situation where they were hurt at work or where they felt they didn't want to be there but they had no choice. Many of us have no choice. It's the same thing with me. I like my work, I'm lucky that way. But there are days where my ears ache, my eyes ache. I can't see straight when I'm finished work because of the stress. It's not only them that goes through it, and people have to accept that and not take it out on family members. So that's what I learned from this chapter, and that's what I reflected on, and it helps me. I love doing my John Maxwell, I love joining in the calls, and I love being part of the team, and I won't give up. Hopefully, eventually, I'll get the speaking opportunities, I'll get the opportunities to make money from it. But right now, at least I've got a job. Many people are unemployed, and I remember that. I remember what it felt like when I was unemployed and everybody was giving thanks for their jobs and completely ignoring the fact that I didn't have a job, and I was sitting in people's homes and they were saying, thank you God for our jobs, and no one prayed for me. I remember how that felt. So I pray for others that don't have jobs, and I pray for God to bless me and to help me so that I can also come up financially and do well. I hope if you're interested in joining John Maxwell, come join us. We're always looking for people.